Over in the pages of Marvel Comics, the publisher is really looking to wind down the epic multi-year saga over for the X-Men during Krakoa. However, that's not stopping Marvel from introducing yet another series of brand new mutants over in the pages of their core X-Men title. My name is Ariko Braddock, and today, let's go ahead and explore the Latverian mutants over in the pages of X-Men issue 29. Before we get deeper into the video, I want to encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button over on this video. Enter Doom's X-Men. That's right, Doctor Doom has his very own team of Latverian mutants loyal to the benevolent leader that keeps their country safe. And they make their spectacular debut in this issue. The X-Men might be in the midst of a fall, but they're not letting Doom's personal squad take their title down without a fight. X-Men 29 is written over from Gerry Duggan, featuring artwork from Joshua Cassara. We have colors from Marte Gracia, design over from Tom Muller and Bowen, letters from VC's Clayton Cowles, and the cover for the issue is coming in over from Joshua Cassara and Guru-eFX. I think the way that the cover is composed over from Cassara really brings out the formidable nature of Doctor Doom and does a fantastic job introducing the rest of the Latverian mutants, being Volta, Nerium, and Slag over in this series as well. I also really appreciate how our underground team of X-Men are mixed up over in the fight with heroes like Miss Marvel as well. Want to extend a big thank you to Adventures in Poor Taste and preview some of the opening pages in the issue. Really found that artist Joshua Cassara did an amazing job laying out so many of the page compositions over in X-Men 29. I particularly love this second panel following this beautiful establishing shot showing like an overhead angle over with Professor X, Moira, and Magneto in the storyline. I think it's super intriguing how this issue is structured over from Gerry Duggan, how it opens particularly on this flashback sequence meant to introduce Doctor Doom's X-Men throughout the series. I was particularly struck with this device that Doctor Doom used to speak with Professor X over in the issue as well. Once again, Joshua Cassara introduces these fascinating page compositions with this overly long rectangular panel teasing Doom's involvement and cocky nature over in the storyline too. It also feels to some degree that Doom is emoting throughout some of these panels, even with the fact that he has his entire face just completely disguised over in the page as well here. There's some really fascinating utilizations of negative space later on in the issue, and I think each and every page is composed incredibly carefully to get the most amount of emotion over from Gerry Duggan's scripts. I also found on this next sequence, there's just a beautiful way that this page is framed, with Doctor Doom speaking down to some of his Latverian mutants, teasing some of their first appearances over in this issue as well. Also, I found these last couple panels showing both Moira and Magneto reacting to some of these instances to introduce a surprising element of humor into the narrative. I'm also incredibly happy with how these X-Men writers and creators are pacing these storylines, introducing these key moments, like the way that Magneto essentially attempts to dismiss Doctor Doom's efforts that bear fruit later on in the series. I also found it really fascinating how in the introduction sequence over with Doctor Doom, he immediately teases the fact that Professor Xavier is in way over his head during the timeline in Krakoa. During these next following pages here, it's really interesting to see the formation of the Latverian mutants or Doctor Doom's own team of X-Men. I really love the way they take on similar costumes over to Doctor Doom before changing them later on in the sequence. Once again, Joshua Cassara does a fantastic job introducing all these interesting utilizations of motion, despite the fact that the characters are barely moving over on some of these pages too. I think at this point, Cassara and Duggan do a fantastic job teasing out the subtext over in the script between the way the artwork and the dialogue is written across the pages of X-Men 29 in particular here. I also found that the battles over between the Latverian mutants and our own team of underground X-Men to be incredibly compelling. Once again, these moments were really paced incredibly well as Gerry Duggan introduces this nonlinear element over with Joshua Cassara teasing the origins of Doom's X-Men here. Watching the catalyst behind Volta, learning from Doctor Doom about how to best use her powers, really seeing Doom rescue Nerium, as well as Slag later on in the comic book tale, teased out so much tension and heart for the character of Doctor Doom. It's really fascinating seeing his compassion over in select sequences while also appreciating the fact that he currently sees himself as a nemesis over for Marvel's X-Men. Once again, here, I think Miss Marvel is an absolute blessing to the X-Men line of titles. Miss Marvel does a fantastic job commenting on the absence of Stark Sentinels over in Latveria, and I love the sequence later on in the comic book tale when our heroes are having this really massive dinner that Doctor Doom essentially has introduced some halal over for Miss Marvel in this sequence too. As we mentioned up top here, the X-Men is currently in a pivotal time of change with the Krakoa era winding down over at Marvel. So while I didn't expect to get a really tense and emotional cliffhanger in the comic book page, I was very happy to see both Cassara and Duggan turn up the tension and stakes of the issue and tease the upcoming publication of Fall of the House of X. So at the end of the day here, I think X-Men 29 is just a really fantastic comic book establishing the world of Latveria in a really, really interesting way. I also found some of the origin sequences over for Doom's X-Men to be incredibly compelling. I think Gerry Duggan and Joshua Cassara have paced this issue so incredibly carefully here. And the nonlinear origins of all these fascinating Doom mutants brought out so much more humanity in terms of Doctor Doom as a character. Also, as we mentioned up top here, the world of Miss Marvel being introduced to the X-Men just continues to bear all these fascinating storylines and just really funny moments of humor over on the comic book as well. I want to know from you, what were some of your thoughts over on X-Men 29? Are you drawn to any of these particular mutants? I think the character of Nerium has a really fascinating design, and I love that moment where Nerium used essentially one of her tendrils to pick up a glass later on in the issue as well. Thanks so much for coming to check out our video review over on X-Men 29, and we'll be back to see where this series is headed over in the near future. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.